Welcome to your Soul's Transformation podcast. I am your host, Dimple Bindra. And today our topic is, why are women insecure? Some of us are insecure all the time and some of us are insecure only sometimes. And there is a real valid reason for our insecurity. The reason could be childhood trauma. It could be recent rejection or failures. It could also be just failing in your relationship. And sometimes it's about past inner wounds, loneliness, social anxiety. There are so many reasons for us to feel insecure. And if we feel insecure, how can we really move towards a secured state of being? And that's what we are going to talk about in this podcast. You know, recent event in our lives can greatly affect both our mood and the way we feel about ourselves. And research on happiness suggests that 40% of the happiness quotient is based on recent life events. The biggest negative contributor to happiness could be death of a loved one. It could be breakup in a relationship. It could be your divorce. It could be losing your house, or it could be illness. Illness that you just got recently, or you are probably suffering from chronic illness. And what has all this to do with your insecurity? Your insecurity can really make you feel as if you're not good enough. And it can really challenge your own beliefs, where you could be believing that you're confident enough, but then all of a sudden when you have this illness that's creeping in your body, or you could feel that you're beautiful sometimes, and then all of a sudden when your husband or boyfriend looks at another girl, and I know that happened to me, looks at another girl, you're like, oh my God, what is this negative feeling within my body? And why do I feel this way? So I am going to uncover certain things that, why do we feel it? We feel it because, like I mentioned, past traumas, okay? All of our traumas can accumulate within our bodies and our minds, which can just go from one layer to another layer to another layer. So simply imagine your first love that you had when you were growing up, and that love rejected you. When you got rejected, you basically started feeling insecure because you got rejected. And then we move on to the next relationship, and that person cheated on you. All right, that's another layer of trauma. And then another relationship, and then that person is looking at other girls or looking at other partners, and you are now really deep down feeling like, oh my God, I'm not beautiful. That's why I'm so ugly, and that's why this guy is leaving me. That could be one possibility. So what happens is our past traumas that we have get layered by layer. It just gets accumulated within ourselves. And when it gets within ourselves and we grow older, we start becoming adults, that's when it starts creeping in and we start feeling horrible about ourselves. And once we understand that we need to really heal our past trauma, we can get rid of our insecurity. And now it's a story time. So I know when I was about 10 years old, I used to stutter a lot. And I've said this story many times to my students. I used to stutter so much that my dad used to always compare me as well as my brother, because we both of us were stuttering, and when we used to talk, we could never pick up the phone that we used to get from our relatives calling us. Whenever we would answer the phone, our relatives would yell and scream at my parents, telling us, please don't tell Dimple to answer the phone. Because I would answer and I would say, hello, and they would say, oh my God, back then it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money to call from India to UAE, which is the place where I lived. So I remember I used to feel horrible about this, that I can't speak. And my dad started telling me, Dimple, you're a good singer. Why don't you try singing instead of talking? And that just boosted my confidence. So as I was stuttering and my dad just gave me this compliment of singing, I thought, all right, great, let me try this. And I started singing and I would say, hello, instead of saying hello. And I noticed, wow, this is really changing a lot of things for me. It's changing something in my speech. And it started helping me to the point that I was constantly singing instead of talking. And that made me feel more secure about myself. So why am I sharing this story with you? It's because if you have insecurity about your looks, guess what you need to do? You need to go in the mirror, close to the mirror, and tell yourself, I am beautiful. I am beautiful. I look amazing. My skin is amazing. My eyes are amazing. My ears are amazing. My jaw is amazing. You get the point. Whatever you don't feel good about, you need to go and secure yourself. And the reason you want to secure yourself is because of the past trauma that we have. Our inner child is wounded. Okay, and we'll talk about inner child in the coming podcast, so make sure you keep listening. So your inner child is wounded, and for us to really change that narrative in our mind at that time when we are anxious and insecure, we can really change our feelings. And when we change our feelings over time, the resistance drops. The resistance drop, we start feeling secure, and that's how you change to be more secure in yourself. Because when you are more secure with yourself, that's when you can start attracting secure people in your life, okay? So there is another philosophy here. If you are in a relationship and you are insecure, guess what? Your partner is probably insecure too in other things or avenues. So this is the main reason why women feel insecure. It could be all these things in the world that is causing us to feel insecurity, but we have the power to change the narrative and the insecurity within ourselves and live a more secure and significant life. So, I hope you like this podcast, and if you do, please do share it with all the women that you know, because this podcast is about women. And remember this mantra: metamorphosis, not medication. See you next time.